Closed caption. There, now it's good. Okay, all right, we can start.
Before we start, understand one of our commissioners this is their last meeting with us. I think one is Scott Mahoney.
Yes, and Natalie and Scott are have termed out, and the carryover period ends this meeting or end of the month. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Natalie's not here yet. I don't see her.
She should be logging on.
Okay. Just remind everyone to refrain from the chat feature on this meeting. And also mahalo to Natalie and mahalo to Commissioner Scott Mahoney. Being this is your last day, I would please bless us with pule. Mahalo, Commissioner Mahoney.
What?
You know what got me in this chair, so before you leave, you're gonna bless us with a pule. Mahalo.
Anyway, I pray to Akua that we bless this meeting with good dialogue and positive conversations, and mahalo.
Does it come with a many?
How many?
A many or how many? Good morning, everybody. Aloha, aloha mai kako. Good morning. I hope everybody had a great week leading up to today's meeting. This hybrid meeting of the Cultural Resource Commission will now come to order. I believe we have an established quorum of 5 in attendance. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So today is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. It is now, what time is it now?
10:05.
All right. Pursuant to Act 220, Session Laws of Hawaii 2021, which amended the Sunshine Law to allow meetings to be remotely conducted online. Effective January 1st, 2022, the CRC will host a hybrid meeting of online and in-person participants. An in-person location has been identified on the agenda for the public to provide testimony on agenda items, only agenda items, and to review the meeting. This meeting can also be viewed live online. A link to the YouTube live stream is provided on the county website. The video recording will remain on the YouTube channel for those who are not able to watch it live. Reports and surveys reviewed during this hearing are available on the county website. Commissioners, please be reminded that only one person may speak at a time. Raise your hand to be recognized if you have a question or a comment. We're moving to our introductions. Commissioners, please introduce yourselves and report if others are present in your location. I'm Desmond Haumea, Vice Chair of the CRC. Ku'ule.
Kakahiaka no ya kako o wau ku'ulei kia kialani a ohe kanaka ma ku'uwahi hale. And ku'ulei kia kialani, and no one is at my home with me today. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Ke aloha nui o puna kini olu olu.
Aloha, is Kealoha Nui Punakini, and I am alone in my home.
No chickens around, eh?
Just dogs,
Scott Mahoney.
Commissioner Mahoney, I'm home alone.
Janet, 6.
Hi, I'm in my office alone. I do have a friend visiting from Maui, but she is in the main house, and I don't think she's going to be coming into my office. Thank you.
She's Akamai. I believe Matthew Clark, our chair, and Aaron Spielman have been excused. And I understand Natalie should be coming on soon. I'm sure you'll reflect that in a minute. And we had no response from Nicole Louis. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Joining us today is our CRC staff. Just answer with AO or I, or President, as I call your name. Kevin Sullivan, planner.
Ayo.
Kim Tanaka, planner.
Aye.
Ashley Rivera, board secretary.
Aye.
St. Clair Salis Ferguson, deputy corp counsel. Pursuant to HRS 92.3-3, interested persons who want to provide oral testimony may do so either at the beginning of the meeting, when the board takes public statements on the agenda, or immediately before the specific agenda item is called. Staff, please indicate if there are any members of the public wishing to provide testimony online or in person.
Thank you, Chair. We have one person, Jojo Tanimoto, who submitted testimony ahead of time, and I believe she is here with us. If she wanted to share, it's sort of the same time, either now or you can actually open the item, whatever.
Yeah, we'll do that when we get, thank you. We'll do that when we get to that part of the agenda.
Okay.
Of course, in accordance with CRC Rule 1-7, parent D, parent 3, the chairperson may also, oh, I see, okay. Sorry, those were not highlighted, so I don't have to read that. Moving on to the business of a commission, I believe. We have the Hawaii Department of Transportation Historic Bridge Program 2024 inventory update. I believe everybody had received those documents submitted in email. Any questions on that, commissioners or staff? I guess we'll call on Jojo. I believe I read that, and I believe she's moving to include, I believe it was 6 more bridges that needs to be named.
Correct.
Hopefully that's correct. Without any objections, I'm going to call upon Jojo Tanimoto to stay on agenda and present your oral testimony on the document you submitted regarding adding those bridges.
Hi. Oh, maybe I should turn off my video. I look like my age today. Anyway, yes, I'm Jojo Tanimoto, and I live in Kauai High on Hawaiian homelands. And on Hawaiian homelands in Kauai High, we have 6 bridges. I think only one is mentioned in all of your documents, but Kauai High is Kamehameha the first lands. I mean, it goes way back to then. But the bridges that I'm talking about were made by the military back in 1941, 1945. And the harbor was completed in 1959. So I'm wondering why the bridges in Kauai High are not in the inventory. And in fact, we have the Forbes Caves on the Honokoa Bridge, on the side of the Honokoa Bridge, and Honokoa is not even mentioned in your inventory. So, for that matter, the other bridges are not mentioned either, but they also have historical stories that go along with it, and kind of think that we should be in the inventory, at least for the next generation coming along. So number 1 is across from the national park, and that is Pohau'okole. That I understand from the kupuna that used to live here before it had roads, used to be a fish habitat, a pond. And the next one is Makeahua, below that. And that used to have a salt pit up there. They used to salt up the cattle when they shipped it out from Kauai High in the old harbor. And then the other one is Makahuna. And that one goes directly into the harbor today. In fact, it's eroding into the harbor today. That is next to the Isaac Davis and the Kealaho Church that was made by John Young and Isaac Davis way back in Kamehameha's day. And that's not even listed. And then you have, like I say, the Honokoa, and then Kai-o-Pai is the same time that you got the one up Akonipule Highway. There's two on Akonipule Highway. One is 5 miles away and one is 8 miles away. So it's recognized in the inventory for bringing the sugarcane to the harbor in Kauai High, but you gotta go over Kai-o-Pai before you reach the harbor. And then there's one mention on the Kohala Mountain Road, which is a Kauai High Uka, but that's not registered either. So I talked to the State Department of Transportation on this island at the Safety Council last night. And I guess we're not even on their radar at all. And I told them, how come? This is Kamehameha country. And the military came here, you know. So we should be in there, at least for the next generation coming. So I'm asking this commission to include Kauai High. And whatever information maybe the community and everybody is all passing away, so better hurry up and contact them and find out what the history is and include it in the inventory for the registry and the National Registry as well. And that's my request to this commission. Thank you.
Mahalo for that. I have some additions to that, but before I go there, I want to ask for any comments from our commissioners, any questions at this time.
Yeah, I have a question. Who's running the HDOT portion of this meeting? Who's their spokesperson? We don't have anybody.
Who? No, but you're a little, maybe turn the volume up a little bit.
Oh man. Oh, okay. Oh, you can't hear me. Oh, sorry.
I can hear you, Scott. I'm trying to get Pua's volume right. Pua with HDOT.
Oh, okay.
Who I think was going to start off the presentation. Now I can't hear you, Pua.
Is that better?
I can hear you. It's a little better.
Better?
A little muffled still.
Yeah, my question is having to do with the inventory, because I mean, I looked at that thing too. I don't see like Nanui, I don't see Umama bridges. So I'm just wondering if that inventory only has to do with certain maybe construction or replacements or stuff like that. They don't have the list is not complete to JoJo, but to the DOT, it has to do with the bridges that they're concerned with. So that was my question. If that's the reason why not all the bridges are on this inventory.
So maybe we should go through the inventory and it'll explain what bridges are on the inventory because it's a limited update. And then we can answer your question afterwards. Still hard to. Guy, can you answer?
Yeah, if everybody can hear me okay.
Yeah.
Guy, I can hear you fine. I think everybody else can.
Yeah, so what Pua was suggesting was that we do our presentation and then we can respond to some of these questions. I think it'll be easier just so everybody understands and is on the same page.
Excuse me, just to be clear, the conversation is directed at the Kauai High request by Jojo Tanimoro. Can we solve that first?
Yes, I will respond. Though I think in context, or without the context, it's maybe not going to make as much sense as it should. So the presentation will help. But at least
Right.
for the 6 bridges that she provided in her letter, we went back and checked. The first bridge looks like it was replaced after 1977, so it would not be in the inventory. The second bridge was determined not eligible. It's in the inventory. The 3rd, 4th, and 6th bridges are exempt from Section 106 review under the program comment. So it was not surveyed. There's no form for those bridges, but it's listed in the bridge matrices in the inventory. The 5th one, that culvert, we couldn't find it based on the name. And so we're going to have to do a little more digging to get an answer for that particular bridge. What you all received in preparation for this meeting was a subset, because this is a limited update to the inventory. So you only received what's potentially changed or what we looked at as part of our update. And so we'll explain all of that in the presentation today.
That solves that.
Hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's also additional historical facts of that area too. So I'll share that later. Jojo, any questions to that presentation from DOT?
Yes, because of the historical factors, the harbor is now planning to expand their services and expand the lanes. So I asked DOT why they did not do any kind of archaeological or whatever, because those 3 bridges will affect the erosion from the mountainside into the Pelicane Bay, which the National Park has already identified, and then the Makiahua Gulch, which is supposed to be a washout plan, and that has not been completed because of the erosion. And then it's supposed to go through Makahuna, which the harbor now wants to fill in the drainage system, the drainage canal. So all of that is going to get backed up through these bridges that are historically, well, John Young's house is in between 2 of these bridges. So the bridges are in history is going to get changed if this commission does not recognize the history behind it. And then you're going to have other problems too with the bridges being repaired by the DOT, because as far as they know, they have authority on it, but they're not going to do anything about the potholes on the bridges now. And the cargo containers are eating up the roadway, but they're not going to do anything. So I talked to them last night, and we're not even on their radar. So why aren't they in the inventory if it's historical? It's going to flow into the Pelicane Bay. Pelicane is supposedly historical, national and state. So these bridges are going to affect that. The harbor is going to affect that. And when you close off that roadway, it's only one road in, one road out. So we have no evacuation. So we're really going to have a problem if it's not recognized or reflected, and why? Because the community now we're all beneficiaries of Hawaiian homes. And history is important to us, at least over here. So if you guys can help us out, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mahalo, Jojo, Ms. Tanimoto. I want to hear from the commissioners, their manao, their thoughts. Just jump on in, anyone.
I think Kini brought up the point of maybe having some kind of historical background for these bridges at the last meeting. You know, he thought that was important. And so I think that's the same feeling Jojo Tanimoto has, but I don't know if whose
Exactly.
responsibility is that. I mean, maybe that's why the DOT doesn't get involved with the historical parts of every bridge or whatever that they're dealing with. But yeah, so I agree too. You know, you'd like to know the history behind it, and you know, like when we work with the borough councils, you know, we have borough treatment plans which explain extensively the history and the cultural parts of the areas we're concerned with. So I don't know if that's gonna carry over to bridges and stuff. So that's just my know.
Chair Hamea, staff's recommendation at this point would be to let's hold this testimony and let HDOT go through their presentation. We can hold the context and come back to this. I think some of it'll iron out. For example, we heard some of them are, I think 3, 4, and 6 are exempt. We can understand better why. And then come back to these. Is that okay?
You know, that was my
you?
thought exactly.
Okay.
But just as a reminder to our staff in our Cultural Resource Commission, is to protect all our sacred sites, our historical sites, first and foremost. Likewise with the Borough Council. There is additional history to this area. I'll just put it on a record that pre-contact and mostly recently shared by Ed Imi Ola with the Kahu Lorenzo Lines at that time, who traversed that whole area, going to Waipio, you know, doing Halipule down there, Pololu, but also during the arrival of our Va'a. The Na'ali'i and Kahuna made sure they created a pathway. And when Kamehameha was hana and protected by Naioli, there were two roads or two alanuis that was created for him. One was to hide his location from those who were against Kamehameha or fear of his leadership. So there is strong cultural significance for what Ms. Tanimoto is presenting. Thanking the DOT for their presentation, brought a lot of light into this request. And I think we should, with the agreement with everyone, maybe I don't know if a motion is in order to table this and to further more research and investigation. We did hear a request from Tanimoto and from the Department of Transportation. I think it's clearly the path to finding a solution for this is apparent, and we should get on that VA and make sure that we do things correctly. And that personally, yes, it should go on the list. But we are governed by the state of Hawaii. And we need to do things correctly. And I agree with our staff that we should table this. Is the motion
Chair.
in order?
Sorry, Chair. I was not recommending that we table it. I was recommending that we give the requester, which is Hawaii Department of Transportation, their opportunity to complete their presentation that they've brought to this commission today, and then we'll come back, I think, with and visit the bridges and JoJo's concern and this growing concern around Kauai High. And yeah,
is a motion in order for this?
No, we just need to hand it over to HDOT.
Okay.
For now, we can come back after their presentation. We can enter into discussion on any motions after that. I think Pula, did you want to start off? Yeah, I want to make sure I can hear you. Go ahead and say something.
Okay, can you hear me now? No. Okay.
I can hear you.
Yes, better.
Okay.
And it is a little better. Does everybody else can hear her? Okay.
Okay. So I'll just go ahead and start. Aloha and Hawaiʻi from the Department of Transportation. Last month, the department came before you with the bridge programmatic agreement, and some of the questions you raised that were raised at that meeting as well. Today, we're before you on the bridge inventory. So all this is looking at the DOT bridges and are they historic, are they eligible for the National Register or not? And Guy will be going over that in our presentation. And as we pointed out before, this is an update, so it's not a complete list of all bridges. You have to take this update and the 2013 inventory to get all the bridges. And so I'll just hand it off to Guy and he can go through the presentation. And thank you for having us.
Awesome.
Yes, thanks for having us. Thank you, Pua. So my name is Guy Blanchard. I'm an architectural historian. I have John Perry on with me. John, are you going to pull up the presentation? Are you able to do that?
Yeah, I'm going to pull that up right now.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. All right.
All right. Thanks, John. So, our intent today is to give just a brief overview of the 2024 State Historic Bridge Inventory and Evaluation Update, and then allow some time for some more follow-up questions that we might receive or any conversation that the Commission wants to partake in. You can go to the next slide, John. So the purpose of today's presentation is to seek the Commission's comments on the report. And I wanted to give you a little bit of background about kind of how we got to where we are today. So this report, as Pua mentioned, is an update to the 2013 State Historic Bridge Inventory and Evaluation. That report evaluated over 700 bridges in all counties throughout the state constructed before 1967. They used a standardized inventory form to do that. They provided a bridge matrix for each county. In addition, the report includes a historic context that extends through the early 1970s about bridges in the state, and it includes information about bridge types as well as state and federal laws. So this update that we've done really builds on that 2013 report. Of particular focus for us in our update are those 3 bullet points you see there. So it's bridges that were on HDOT's 100 priority bridge list, which is identified by utility rating. So essentially, is the bridge doing a good job holding itself up or not? Bridges altered since the 2013 inventory, and then bridges constructed from 1968, essentially where the last inventory left off, through 1977. So taking us 2 more years into the future as far as 50 years from the present go. 50 years is generally the cutoff that we use to identify whether or not something could be historic or not. You can go to the next slide, John. So in general, our update follows the methodology and approach from the 2013 inventory. And when we looked at that 2013 inventory, we wanted to see what we could pull forward as part of this update. So chapter 2, which includes bridge type summaries, that was pulled forward, as well as chapter 3, which is the historic context. Survey forms that were not the focus of our reevaluations were also brought forth in the 2024 update, as well as Appendix E and F. Appendix E includes supplemental information like a glossary of terms or bridge rehabilitation guidelines, preservation plans, and the like. Appendix F are the National Register registration forms for bridges throughout the state. Some new additions that are in the 2024 report is that the historic context has been expanded to extend through the 1980s. We've included bridges, as I mentioned, constructed from 1968 to 1977. And then there's new forms for those reevaluated bridges that were identified on the previous slide, which could be on that 100 priority bridge list from HDOT or bridges that have been altered. We also incorporated information about the historic bridge programmatic agreement that Pua mentioned earlier, which is currently in development. You can go to the next slide, John. So do all the bridges have new forms? No. So like I mentioned, this is a limited update. In total, 10 new forms were completed for bridges in Hawaiʻi County, and those are what's included in this update. These new forms include robust descriptions of the bridges, statements of significance and integrity assessments. There are new maps and there are multiple photographs of these bridges. The 2024 update pulls forward the other 179 forms from the 2013 inventory for bridges that were not substantially altered. So for all intents and purposes, those bridges and the determinations for eligibility for those bridges are still good. Those determinations have not changed. And then consistent with the approach taken in 2013, bridges that fall under the program comment exemption for common post-1945 bridges, they did not receive forms. They are included in the matrix, so they are listed in the inventory as a whole. In addition, bridges that have been demolished and replaced, those forms have been removed from the inventory because those bridges essentially no longer exist. They are replaced with new bridges that do not meet that 50-year threshold that we're looking at. Go to the next slide, John. So here's how that kind of breaks down for you all. So in total, 55 bridges were reviewed, including those 10 HDOT priority bridges. 13 bridges were flagged as potentially altered since 2013. 30 bridges were built between 1968 and 1977, and 2 bridges were demolished and replaced. Ultimately, new survey forms were completed for 10 those 10 bridges on the HDOT priority bridge list. And following our reevaluation, 3 are now recommended not eligible. None of the 13 potentially altered bridges were identified as having alterations that resulted in changes to integrity or significance. So what that means is that when it was flagged in our search, those repairs were probably are probably involved things like roadway repairs or repaving or small in-kind repairs to the bridge itself, essentially things that aren't discernible. And then the 30 bridges constructed from 1968 to 1977 are those common standardized bridge types that are not distinct. Those bridges under Section 106 would fall under the program comment exemption for common post-1945 bridges. And John, you can go to the next slide. So this is the information that you all received in preparation for today. So it's just a summary of the bridges that were part of our reevaluation and update. So these are the ones that we really focused on for purposes of today's meeting. So you'll see there that the first 3 are those that are now recommended not eligible. The others, the determination of eligibility has not changed. They are still eligible. You go to the next slide, John. And then that list continues on. Again, those bridges remaining eligible. And then you get into those bridges that are those common bridge types. Well, 2 demolished here. And then the next slide, John, those common bridge types. And there's no form for those bridges as part of this update. But like I said, they are included in the matrix for the county. And I think the next slide is questions. And at this point, we'll turn it over to you all if you have any questions for us.
I have a question, Guy. Could you go back 2 slides? This is Kevin.
Sure.
Yeah. So will you just reiterate for me, please, when those rows, those bridges that have the NA on this slide and the next?
Yeah, so
that were removed.
Yeah, so these on this slide, the bottom 2, they were removed because they were demolished.
Okay.
So that bridge is no longer extant. So there is no need to have, there's no historic bridge anymore. Essentially, it's been replaced.
As of 2021.
As of 2020, is that when it was replaced? Yeah, 2021.
It says construction date.
Yep.
Okay. For those
and then the
2.
next one. Yep. So the NAs on this page. So the bridges, again, following the methodology from the 2013 inventory, bridges that fall under this exemption did not get an individual survey form. They are listed in the matrix, but these are these common standardized bridge types that the SHPO, in coordination with SHPOs across the country and the Federal Highway Administration, determined essentially are not subject to Section 106 review.
Got it. Okay, sorry, Janet had a question. I think. Chair, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Janet.
Yeah, I understand the compliance 106, and I know there's state roads. What about 6E? Are they
Yeah,
exempt
so
from 6E?
they are not exempt from 6E. So what we've done as part of this update is indicate, and this is another comment that we've received as well, indicate on the survey form itself whether or not the bridge is a significant historic property under 6E, as well as a historic property under Section 106, right, and National Register guidance. So we're adding the 6E bit to the forms for these updated bridges. For the bridges that did not receive forms, we are proposing an evaluation to SHPD that these bridges are also not significant because, again, these are these common bridge types. There's nothing distinct about them.
Except that in the future, they'll be distinct, right? So 6E is anything over 50 years old. Some of these are 68. I deal with this at the county of Maui all the time, where it's brutal architecture, it's cinder block, we think it's ugly, but it's a product of its time.
Sure.
But I really want to just address JoJo's concerns of the archaeological sites and cultural significance adjacent to these common type bridges. So like when she's talking about Forbes Cave, JoJo, so you know I'm an archaeologist, so I'm listening to what you had to comment as well as other commissioners. So I think it's really mindful that while the bridge itself may not have a significance given the fact that it's a standards bridge, in the future it will. And I think it's important to really take a look at what these bridges are adjacent to, and especially archaeological and culturally significant sites and or areas. As Uncle Des is probably going to add some cultural background, this is an area of high significance. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you so much for that.
Understood. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Mahalo for that. Like I said earlier, there's strong cultural significance attached to these bridges that has been, those sites has been eroded because of time and difficult to find. But I totally agree. Thank you, Janet, for that. Commissioners?
I had a couple of comments that I wanted to share. I guess a question for you, Guy, is you're going through this process of identifying all of these different historic bridges, and a lot of that is based on these engineering properties that are kind of an icon of the time and so forth. But I wondered, kind of riffing off what Janet said and Scott and previous comments that we've had, going forward in the future, once you have this list together, do you see like some kind of geographic information system, a story map, where these historic bridges are laid out? Is that a place where we can celebrate and honor the cultural heritage that may go beyond the period of time when the bridge was there? I think those sorts of things might be useful, and then also thinking about these bridges, like in a way they tell us something about our ahupua'a system in sort of a contemporary way. They're these features on the landscape, and often they're going across these watershed features that at one time were the delineation points for different ahupua'a in different areas, and they kind of circumscribe a sort of higher level within the ahupua'a system, maybe at the ili level, smaller fractions of larger moku. And sometimes I think, unless you're from that area, you might not know that you're going. Actually, it's more complicated than just you in South Kohala or you're in Hamakua, or you're in Puna. There's lots of different divisions within that. And I think that's something that if you are planning on having some kind of system like that that is available to the public, that's accessible. Maybe perhaps that's a place where we can kind of honor the sense of these places and provide some educational value. And perhaps cultivate greater cohesion around the history of these spaces.
Totally agree with you, Commissioner Kinney. I mean, as a cultural practitioner, I think my manao is just add it to the list. I mean, there's strong cultural significance, and we have to makavalu this view. We have to look at it from a different side too. The state of Hawaii is doing their job. They're in a box. Our kupuna was never in a box. They figured things out. Yeah, they traversed thousands of miles to come here. There were engineers, carpenters, architects, doctors before the Western world even came up with those words, those names. So my call out to my commissioners, to our commissioners, is that what would be the wrong or the loss if we do not add it to the list? I believe it should be considered. I don't know if it works that way, but forcing the Department of Transportation to really look into the historical significance of the area. Mahalo Commissioner Kinney for mentioning Ahupua'a. We have two seasons. We have Ku and we have Makahiki. Yeah. During Ku, we make sure that we protect our Ahupua'a. And many of the trails in Alanui that was built were closed. Fast forward to today, these bridges were built to move modern society forward with no consultation from our kupuna. We got to build this road. We got to get this truck over the gulch. Yeah, so for me, in the ancestral mind of our kupuna, why not add it? If you don't have the historical significance, then go do your homework, go do your research. Go out there and talk to the people who actually is from Kauai. Who can say, hey, you know what? Yeah, no more road or bridge here, but there was once a bridge there. Or there was once a trail. Was not adequate for the modern society, but was adequate enough for Kanaka Maoli to traverse these islands. That's why the King's Highway was created. And I feel I'm confident that Janet knows of the King's Highway on Maui. Yeah. So they made it very important to connect these Ahupua'a and void of that connection when Ku, the season of Ku came. For one reason or another, I don't really know that, but I do, I've done research on Ahupua'a, so I have many of the commissioners here. So I call upon the commissioners for thoughts on this. Why not include them, regardless if they're eligible or not eligible? We have Kupuna here saying it is. I don't see any loss by including them in your list of eligible or not eligible, but at least they're on the list. And more research, more competent research should be done, not by the PhDs from UH, but by the Kupuna, which is always void from these conversations. And that's my mana on that.
Kule has your hand up.
Go, Kule. Go.
Aloha mehana. Let's see, definitely got a few thoughts here, but I want to maybe just start with what Uncle Des was just talking about, the eligibility. And should we perhaps not entertain the thought here in Pai'aina, Hawaii, to look at maybe adding, or I don't want to say necessarily scrutinizing, but maybe that is the proper term, to look at the requirements of eligibility and what will make it, or what then, because I saw that 3 were changed to be not eligible. And so is it really about the construction or the type of bridge? Well, here in Hawaii, I think there should be other considerations, as we have all been alluding to, right? It's the historical, it's significance. They're all significant. Just look at its name. Right in its name, there carries its significance. If we looked at, and this page that we have up, Lani Maumau, if we know about her, she is the goddess of fog. And interesting enough, there is a DOT sign when you come into that area in Waimian. It's gonna say, I think, like fog area, and you're like, oh, my kai, she is the goddess of fog here in Waimea. We should Maupopo. And so you see what I'm saying, right? It definitely is going to lead you to the mo'olelo, or that this place is a story. It is a wahipana. It is a part of our land divisions for Kauai, a seat of government. That was where the seat of government was held for multiple ali'i. Even prior Kamehameha, right? We're looking at Alapai's time as well. The seat of government was right there in Kauai. So when I look at, or I think about the eligibility, I think I would even say that all bridges and all of these ways and means to cross over Kahawai stream waterways are highly significant. Then when you look at the Alaloa, the Alakahakai, I'm trying to make those connections as well, where there's causeways that we're going to build up to that the trail can traverse over these maybe halua or gullies or kipuka types out in the lava lands of North Kona. So I don't think there's any question as to significance within the cultural context. And then I look at this list again and I see unnamed gully, unnamed gulch, or those sorts of things. And maybe to some extent they're the name is not listed for one reason or another, and then to just say it's unnamed, it's unnamed. I don't know. I got a little bit hard time with that. Say that. One more name. Our Kanaka are very keen on giving name. And so, maybe it's just not documented in this way, or like Uncle was saying, to go talk to the people of place and boom, all of a sudden there is a name. So anyway, just kind of a myriad of thoughts here, but I would really like to look at eligibility and encourage us to look at what will deem and make a bridge, besides its type and how it's built and materials that it's built with, to have that determination made. Yeah, mahalo.
Mahalo ku'ele. It kind of brings us back to Waiaka and Kole Kole. Same storyline, yeah. We heard from Jan. Anybody, any other commissioner? Maybe where's Natalie? Where's Natalie? There's Natalie.
Yes, my hand is up, model.
Oh, okay.
So, I feel like a lot of this has to do with like communication and how things are presented more than anything. But like I'm understanding that the purpose of the inventory is to prioritize bridges for repair, right? Because they've been deemed unsafe by the 100 bridge priority list. And so that being that first level of filter down to then the different categorizations and the 106 categorizations. And I feel like maybe even us, everybody, and public might benefit from like a one pager that shows, like how it flows through and how the filters work. And then, just the main thing, like these bridges were chosen because they were deemed unsafe, or however you want to say it, so that it's very clear why these ones are on this particular inventory list for those that are being communicated with. And maybe even at the top of that, there could be like a recognition, because I think significance holds a lot, like that word in itself holds a lot of weight for a lot of people in their minds. And so if we could just recognize that, these bridges exist in cultural landscapes that are all significant, like if we could just have that up front, and people can feel better about, okay, yes, that's the first recognition. And then from there, yes, we need at the end of the day, we need to get these bridges safe for people who are driving on them. So that's why these bridges were chosen, and so on and so forth. Because I think people are getting caught up on maybe the loadedness of things. And I also love Kealoha and all the other commissioners' suggestions on how do we elevate through these bridge repairs, how do we elevate the cultural spaces and the significance that is inherently there, right? And it could be also through like design potentially, and like that, like the place name or the people or the akua associated with those places are like, in the design somehow, so that visually you're impacted as you cross over those spaces.
Mahalo, Commissioner Christian. Awesome. I believe there's Pua. Pua, you have your hand up?
Yep. Aloha. Mahalo, Commissioner Hiroshima. So yeah, so bridge inventories are very specific to the bridges and not necessarily the landscape in general. So while the landscape may have a lot of significance, a bridge inventory looks at a specific set of criteria for just the bridge. So that, like the last time when we came before you, we were talking about repairs to the bridges. And when you're doing repairs to the bridges, then we have to kind of look at the larger landscape, right? But when we're looking at a bridge inventory, the question is this bridge significant under National Register standards? And they're very specific, right? And I would let Guy go over them rather than freaking out my brain right now on how to do them if you want to go over them. And basically, you look at bridges under architecture and engineering. There are options to look at a landscape when, for example, we have to do repairs to lots of bridges if you wanted to look at a large landscape. So for example, on the Hamakua coast, we're looking at repairing all of the steel bridges. And we're looking at a landscape assessment of that area. A lot of times when we're doing one bridge, we look at the landscape around that bridge, but it would be helpful, again, as I mentioned the last time, when we're doing the repairs, that's when we look at the landscape. For a bridge inventory, we're really looking at the bridges themselves, and are they significant under National Register guidelines? So it's a limited scope of work that we have for this, because as Commissioner Kushima pointed out, the question is really, if we want to fix this bridge, what do we have to do to ensure that it maintains some elements, at least, of its integrity? And I will be honest with you, integrity is really holly. Just saying it. It doesn't look at the culture. It looks at really specific things. And so I think this conversation is really good, but it's those National Register eligibility criteria are in the National Historic Preservation Law. So there's for this at this time, there's kind of a limit on what we can do in terms of expanding up to a broader landscape. Whereas when we're doing projects, is more the time to start looking at the landscape.
Awesome. Mahalo Pua. I understand. I think we're all in agreement that yes, as an advocate for our children, I want to make sure our bridges are safe for our children to cross as they continue on to tomorrow. But I understand the Department of Transportation is focused on that and not so much cultural significance. And that is understood. That's the way the state of Hawaii is. But I think at this point, if there's no other comments from our commissioners, we have two pathways, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steph, that one is we put this back on the table with not the table, but continue this to our next meeting and have the Department of Transportation look into this further. And the other path is just to put it on the list. Am I correct there? Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. There's probably a few other options, and we can consult with HDOT as to the degree of flexibility they have. At the end of the day, we can absolutely make motions with recommendations to be put into a letter to HDOT regarding this. There is an option, you are correct, to sort of table this until the next meeting. We'd need some specifics about, you know, why and what we expect. And then there's another option. Well, coinciding with the first option. You can make a fair amount of motions regarding this, but it may be opportune time to touch base with DOT on their timeline regarding this bridge inventory and what might be most useful from their point of view as well.
Yep, understood. I mean, that word expansion on their part, that's their difficulty, to expand their work into a cultural presentation, I believe.
Well, it's
Yeah. So I mean,
it's an inventory and an update for them, and at the end of the day, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pua, but if anything happened, if work is proposed on any of these bridges that are still, well, other than the exempt ones on the NA list, these would come back, right? If any work is proposed or anything like that. And then I guess there is a hanging question to HDOT is, you know, which is, can we just add these bridges? Or if we were to add them, where would you recommend we add them into this overall inventory, or what? Because what I'm hearing is some of these are legitimately undocumented from the Kauai list.
So
at least one or two? No, maybe just that culvert.
So
ahead,
yeah,
Rob.
so we're talking about that list of 6.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, and I'll just run through that again. So the first one was replaced. It was constructed after 1977, so it's
Right.
not in the inventory. And it won't be in the inventory until it, of course, reaches that age, at which point it would then fall into the next update or subsequent updates. The second bridge is in the inventory. It was determined to be not eligible.
Guy,
Yeah.
do you have, are those bridges in the list that we gave them?
No, because these are bridges that were not part of our update. So they are in the full 2024 update report. These bridges are in there. They were just not ones that we looked at. So they were all pulled forward.
At some point, can you give us your list so that we know which exactly how your numbering is going in case other numbering is different?
Oh, I'm just looking at the letter that was received, the testimony.
Oh, okay. I don't have
Sorry.
the letter. Okay, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. That's your reference. Thank you.
Yeah, and then the 3rd, 4th, and 6th, those were previously determined to be program comment exempt. So they are in the inventory. They have no form. And then number 5, we couldn't find using that name. So it may just have a different designation by HDOT. And that's something that we'll just have to look into.
Okay. The ones, the 3 that don't have a form, what are the options on those? Does that mean that they have not been assessed for historic integrity?
It means that they are exempt under the program comment for post-1945 bridges because they're a common and indistinct bridge type, right?
Got it.
So the methodology developed for the 2013 inventory was that those bridges that fell under that exemption would not receive a form. They would be included in the matrix and noted as exempt. And so that's been carried forward in this update as well. I think based on comments that we've received, we're going to take that a step further and say that these are also not eligible because again, it's that, common bridge type. Those bridges, there's been national mitigation for those bridge types already. It's published on the Federal Highway Administration website. So there was a lot of work done about 10 years ago when the program comment was published, and all of that is available online. So there's more information there if anyone's interested.
And then my final question with those three, does that care? And this is tied to Janet's question as well. That's just 106.
That's 106. So for what, for our particular update here, we also want to take it a step further and say that these are not significant under 6C, right? Okay. So the criteria under 6C are very similar to the National Register criteria, except there's an additional criteria in E for cultural places of significance, right? Yeah. I don't think bridges are typically evaluated under criterion E. I think that would require an archaeologist to make that determination. But that's what we're looking at as far as kind of the laws that we are sort of beholden to when it comes to evaluating these resources.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Guy. I think we've exhausted what we need to talk about. That's on the agenda currently.
Uncle Des.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We did have one person sign in and attend, and I believe they might want to testify. Her name is Cindy Freitas.
I've seen her hand up. I just wanted to finish what I'm going to say.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay, I'm so sorry.
We're at a point in our agenda that we need to come to bring this to a conclusion and figure out what we're going to do. I believe Cindy Freitas, I can't see her face. I would like to see her face, her video monitor on. Her hand is up, and you have 3 minutes, Cindy Freitas. Hey, aloha.
Hey, aloha. He mele komo a he mele aloha no nā kupuna I ka au I hala. Aloha mai kako. Mahalo for this opportunity. I just chimed in. I'm just concerned about the culture and the historical sense of shoots. The culture and
relax, take your time.
Yes. No. Historical and the culture part is unclear to what extent the Native Hawaiian practitioner and culture experts were consulting regarding the cultural significance of the certain bridges beyond their structure and architectural assessment. Some of these bridges hold deep historical, spiritual, and cultural connection to the Native Hawaiians. Potential demolition, I'm not sure if this might end up in that way, or modification of historic bridges. The report categorized certain bridges as structural deficient or ineligible for National Register of Historical Places listing, which may lead to their replacement or demolition. I urge HDOT to explore culturally sensitivity alternatives such as preservation and structural reinforcements of these bridges. Also, the environment and culture impact assessment, the public engagement and transparency. While the availability of report online is appreciated, I strongly recommend increasing opportunities for public input, especially from Native Hawaiian communities, culture practitioners, and those directly impacted by the change to these bridges. Mahalo, thank you. Oh, did I go off?
Mahalo, thank you. Good to see you, Cindy.
You too.
I believe Janet wants 10 minutes.
Not 10 minutes. I just was wanting to comment on the fact the Matrix was done in 2013. So 12 more years have gone by. So bridges in 1968 are by 6E over 50 years old and would be considered significant. So I think it's important, if you're looking for a 6E exemption, to really take a look at the role these bridges played in the culture. And I want to, follow up with what Cindy Freitas just said.
You're breaking up, Janet.
What Uncle Des has said, what other commissioners have mentioned, that it's important. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Unfortunately, we can hear you, Janet. Yeah, you're still breaking up. You have your mute on. You have your mute. You're muted. Okay. Go ahead, continue. I think you gotta pay your Wi-Fi bill. You're muted again. You're still muted. Steph, is she still muted?
Yes, just maybe there's a delay, so we can just sort of give her a second
Okay.
and then wait and see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
So I just had my office door closed and my Wi-Fi's in the house. But so hopefully you can hear me. I'll just say again real quick. 2013 was when the Matrix was done. That's 12 years ago. So many of those bridges from 1968, not the 1977, are considered historic under sectionally. But this is Hawaii. This is different than continental United States. So take it. These bridges played an important role militarily, culturally, and then it's also the significance of the sites themselves. So I know you folks, I get it. You're looking at the bridge. It's a 1968, 1977 standard bridge, and nationally they don't have significance. But here in Hawaii, we have very strident 6C rules, and many of these are over 50 years old. So rather than just asking for 6C exemption, wholesale, just really take a look at the role the bridges played, talk to the cultural practitioners, look at the areas where they are at archaeological sites that may be adjacent, because again, this is Hawaii is a little bit different than the continental United States. But I understand from your position that these bridges are kind of standardized. But again, in 2013 was 12 years ago, and many of these are over 50 years old. So that's all I had to say. Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Thank you, Commissioner Six. Do we do a motion, or do we give this back to the Department of Transportation for further investigation and research? That's the question at hand right now. Correct?
Are you asking staff, Chairman?
Oh, I'm asking everybody here, especially the commissioners and staff.
Yeah, I agree with that, Uncle Desmond. I kind of feel like we have an understanding of the HDOT position and the constraints of the identification process, and then we also have all of these different mana'o and different advice on ways to incorporate the cultural significance of these places. And I guess I wonder, like, maybe moving forward, it's like more of a challenge to HDOT to figure out what they can do to compromise within these different options and ideas that have been presented, and if there is one. And perhaps that compromise may fall somewhere outside of the National Historic Identification process, and maybe something that actually runs in parallel. So I, just as an idea, but I think a lot of good mana'o have come forward, and that should be enough to inform some kind of a response based on that and the testimonies that have been provided.
Yeah, agreed. I should be totally agree with that from Commissioner Kuroshima, from Cindy Frieders, from everybody, all of our commissioners here. So it sounds like that. He's got his hand up.
Yeah, I was thinking, since the historical significance of these bridges is important to all of us, maybe if we're going to keep moving that way, I mean, I don't know what the DOT feels about that, if it's even feasible for do that kind of research, but If we're going to move that way, then maybe the CRC should make some kind of template of just the kind of information we want for these bridges, like the date of the building, the name of the bridge, the Aupua, or any other kind of cultural significance to that one bridge. But I think it's our responsibility to tell them what we want, because
Yep.
right now I don't know if anybody knows what we want. I mean, we know we like the historic part, but I think we have to work together with the DOT on exactly how they can become. But anyway, my last.
Yeah. I mean, I am totally agreement with all of our commissioners here in how to approach this. As a reminder, we are the Cultural Resource Commission, and we protect our cultural sites. And from what I'm hearing so far is to make sure that the DOT, the word expansion, if they have the tools to expand their research and gaining more knowledge as far as moving this forward, then I feel it's in agreement with everybody here that we, for lack of a better term, to table this, but just to move this forward and have the Department of Transportation figure it out within their context of what they do. Yeah. I suggest we do that at this point.
We can have a motion to table, and staff can help facilitate what comes back at another meeting.
Okay.
We could come back in May, and what I'm sort of hearing is that the 6 bridges that were brought up in JoJo's testimony, you've already heard HDOT sort of address those. We could ask for, I could work with them to get a little bit more info. It's also, I'm seeing from the update list that Guy provided, there's some concern with the NA, and we can work to provide a bit more detail. Guy, I'm looking for you to sort of shake your head like, yes, I'll work with you in the next month. And Pooh as well. Thank you.
I'll do my best.
and maybe come back in May, and have a bit more of a targeted discussion.
Yeah.
I'm also hearing that we aren't necessarily that we understand the difference between the 106 and the 6E.
Yeah.
And that Hawaii is different, so we want to rely on our 6E options,
Yep.
maybe more so than the 106, and that could be fair. But we don't have to. You don't have to make any firm decision or firm motion regarding this if you don't want. I mean, frankly, you could just thank them for the presentation and we move on and don't hear from them. But I'm not hearing that. I'm just saying that we have many options from the no action to action side. That's all.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is a potential good compromise would be to just table it. And if Guy and Pua are willing to come back and have that more targeted discussion, I can help facilitate that between now and May. Sinclair, does that sound fair and amiable and check all the boxes for?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think what the agenda says is that you guys were gonna receive a presentation from the state and then ask questions, right? So you were more bringing information today. There was no action item on the agenda for something to be discussed and voted upon by the commission. So what I'm hearing is that a lot of information was shared today. There was some discussion, but there's no decision-making item on the agenda. And so if there is going to be a decision-making item for the commission to consider, it would be placed on the next agenda. And that staff is going to work with the necessary people to narrow that action item for the next agenda. Is that correct? Is that what everyone's kind of agreed on?
Yes, we all, Commissioner, I can speak for all of our commissioners. We are in total agreement.
Okay, so, and, you know, we can assist staff in crafting whatever that agenda item will be next month to allow for the proper discussion and decision making.
Mahalo, mahalo for that. I guess all of this will be included in the minutes. I believe a motion is not necessary at this point. We're just going to continue this matter to our next meeting. If there's no further comment or discussion on this agenda item, I want to thank Guy Blanchard, everybody from the Department of Transportation for being here today.
You
And,
will, Uncle Des. Oh, sorry. We will need a motion in a second just to table it or to continue it.
Okay. If one of the commissioners could provide a motion. Come on, Scott. It's your last day. Make a motion.
So I can just tell you guys that sorry, I don't want to conflict with what you guys do, but Robert's rules, you don't need a motion. You can just close this item because you guys got the information to ask the questions.
Yep.
And then you just present a new agenda item at the next meeting.
Yeah. So we'll continue this matter. Oh, sorry, Sinclair. We'll just continue this matter to the next meeting. Mahalo to Department of Transportation, to Sinclair, and those attending this meeting. I call this agenda item closed. Mahalo. And moving into administrative matters, approval of minutes, February 12th, 2025. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Culture Resource Commission meeting held on February 12th, 2025? Can I make a motion? I cannot, yeah.
I move. Sorry, I move to approve the minutes.
All right, it was moved by Commissioner Six and seconded by Commissioner.
I'll second the motion.
Aloha Kini. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes approved as circulated. Our next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Staff, are there any additional announcements?
No, I do not have any additional announcements at this time, Chair.
I want to thank you, everybody, for going through this with me. This concludes the items on this agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I just have one quick comment. Is that all right?
Oh, yeah. You got 10 minutes.
Yeah. Thank you. I need all of it. I'm currently enrolled in a drone class at Hawaiʻi Community College in Hilo.
Oh, cool.
And we are going to be flying down at Ka'akepa at Mackenzie Beach Park. So we're using LiDAR. So I may do some kind of a follow-up presentation report as for the use of LiDAR in the future at cultural sites. So I just wanted to say I'm going to be down there tomorrow if anyone's in the area. Thank you.
Did you second the motion? Oh, no, you already second, yeah? Well, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Mahalo,
Awesome.
mahalo,
Mahalo, mahalo.
Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Mahalo. Oh.
Staff, can I just talk to you guys real quick before we get off? I'll just wait till everybody's done.